David learns from his mistakes. David wanted to do something very special for his mom because it was her birthday. He thought and thought, and then he had a great idea he would make a big, beautiful cake all by himself. He went to the kitchen, and he felt very excited, like a real baker. He saw the big white bag of flour on the table, and he remembered that cakes need flour. So he took a very big bowl, a really, really big bowl, and he poured the flour into it. He poured a lot of flour, so much flour that it made a small white mountain inside the bowl. He did not use a cup to measure. He just poured and poured because he thought a bigger cake needed more flour. He smiled because he was making a very big cake for his mom. Then, he saw the bag of sugar next to the flour. He knew cakes were sweet, so he needed sugar. He opened the bag of sugar and poured the sugar on top of the flour mountain. He used a lot of sugar, maybe more sugar than flour, because he wanted the cake to be very, very sweet for his mom. He did not use a spoon to measure. He just poured and poured until he thought it looked right. He looked at the white mountain of flour and sugar and felt very proud of his work. Next, David saw the eggs in a small box. Cakes need eggs, he knew that for sure. He took 3 eggs from the box. He did not crack them carefully. He hit them hard on the side of the big bowl. 1 egg broke and some of the shell, the hard outside part, fell into the flour and sugar. David did not see the little pieces of shell. He just dropped the egg in. He took the second egg and hit it on the bowl too. More shell fell into the mixture. He did not worry about it. He took the third egg and dropped it in, shell and all. He thought maybe the shell made the cake strong. Then he saw the big bottle of milk in the refrigerator. He knew cakes needed milk to be soft. He opened the bottle and poured the milk into the bowl. He poured a lot of milk, so much milk that the flour and sugar mountain became a big white lake. It made a splashing sound. He did not measure the milk. He just poured until he felt it was enough. Now it was time to mix everything together. He took a big spoon and started to mix. It was very hard to mix because the bowl was so full. The mixture was not smooth like cake mix should be. It was very lumpy, with hard parts of flour, and it was also very, very wet like a soup. It was a strange gray color, not a nice cake color at all. David looked at the mix. He thought maybe it will be okay after it is cooked. So he took the big bowl and poured the strange, lumpy soup into a cake pan. The mix spilled over the sides of the pan because there was too much. He did not clean it up. He just wanted to cook the cake. He went to the oven. The oven had numbers on it. He did not know what the numbers were for. He just turned the knob to a very high number because he wanted the cake to cook fast. He put the pan in the hot oven and closed the door. He did not look at a clock. He did not set a timer. He just waited. He waited for a long time, and then he smelled something. It was not a good smell. It was a bad, burning smell. David ran to the oven and opened the door. A lot of black smoke came out. The cake was black on top. It was very, very burnt. He took the cake out of the oven. It was hot, so he used a cloth to hold the pan. He put the cake on the table. It did not look like a cake. It was black on the top and wet in the middle. It was hard like a rock on the edges. He touched it with a spoon. It was very hard. He tried to take a small piece. It was like a black stone. He tasted it. It was terrible. It was not sweet, it was just burnt, and he felt something hard in his mouth. It was a piece of eggshell. David felt very, very sad. His special surprise for his mom was a big mistake. A big, black, hard mistake. He sat at the table, and a small tear ran down his cheek. His mom came into the kitchen. She saw the black cake. She saw the messy table. She saw her sad son, David. She did not get angry. She came and gave David a big hug. "What happened, my dear?" she asked in a soft voice. David told her everything. He told her about the flour mountain, and the sugar, and the eggshells, and the milk lake, and the very hot oven. He told her he did not measure anything. He told her he just guessed. His mom listened very carefully. When he finished, she smiled a little. "It is okay to make mistakes," she said. "Everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is to learn from our mistakes." David looked at the bad cake. He did not want to make a bad cake. He wanted to make a good cake. He looked at his mom. "How do I learn?" he asked. His mom went to a shelf and took down a book. It was a recipe book. She opened the book to a page with a picture of a beautiful cake. "This is a recipe," she said. A recipe is a list of instructions. It tells you exactly what to do. It tells you how much flour to use. It tells you how much sugar to use. It tells you how to mix everything. It tells you how hot the oven should be. It tells you how long to cook the cake. If we follow the instructions, we can make a beautiful cake. David looked at the recipe. There were words and numbers. He looked at the bad cake on the table. He understood his first mistake. His first mistake was not using a recipe. He just did what he thought was right, but he did not know how to make a cake. So he made a decision. He would try again. He would try again, but this time he would learn from his mistake. He would use the recipe. His mom smiled and said, "That is a wonderful idea. Let's do it together." First, they cleaned the kitchen. They put the bad cake in the trash. They washed the big bowl and the spoon. The kitchen was clean again. It was ready for a new cake. David felt better. He was not sad anymore. He was ready to learn. He looked at the recipe book with his mom. "First, we need to read all the instructions," his mom said. So David read the recipe. He read it slowly. He read every word. He saw that he needed flour, sugar, eggs, milk, butter, and something called vanilla. He also saw numbers. It said 1 cup of sugar. It said 2 cups of flour. It said 2 eggs. He understood now. The numbers were important. He needed to measure. David said, "Okay, I am ready." His mom helped him get all the things he needed. They put the flour, the sugar, the eggs, the milk, the butter, and the vanilla on the table. They also got special cups and spoons for measuring. David looked at the recipe again. Step 1, get a clean bowl. David got a clean bowl. It was a nice, shiny bowl. Step 2, put 1 cup of butter in the bowl. David took the butter. He used a special measuring cup. He filled it with butter. He made sure it was exactly 1 cup, not more, not less. He put the butter into the bowl. This was very different from his first time. He was following the instructions. Step 3, add 1½ cups of sugar. David took the measuring cup again. He filled it with sugar 1 time. He put the sugar in the bowl with the butter. Then he filled the cup halfway. He put that sugar in the bowl too. He was very careful. He was measuring. He was learning. Step 4, mix the butter and the sugar together until it is light and fluffy. David took a spoon and started to mix. He mixed and mixed and mixed. At first, the butter and sugar were separate, but he kept mixing. Slowly, they started to come together. The mixture became a pale yellow color. It looked soft like a cloud. His arm was a little tired, but he did not stop. He kept mixing until his mom said, "That looks perfect, David. It is light and fluffy." David felt proud. He was following the recipe and it was working. Step 5, add 2 eggs, one at a time. David remembered the eggshells from before. This time, he would be very careful. He took 1 egg. He tapped it gently on the side of the bowl. A small crack appeared. He carefully opened the shell with his fingers and let the egg fall into the bowl. No shells. He did a great job. He threw the empty shell in the trash. Then he mixed the 1 egg into the butter and sugar mixture. He mixed it very well. Then he took the 2nd egg. He cracked it just as carefully. No shells again. He put the 2nd egg in the bowl and mixed it all together. The mixture looked smooth and creamy. It looked like real cake mix. David smiled a big smile. This was so much better than his first try. He was learning from his mistake of being careless. The recipe book was his guide. The next step was about the dry things. Step 6, in a separate bowl, mix 2 cups of flour and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. David got another bowl. He took the big bag of flour. This time, he did not just pour it. He used the measuring cup. He filled the cup with flour 2 times and put it in the 2nd bowl. He was very precise. Then, his mom showed him the baking powder. It was in a small can. She gave him a tiny measuring spoon. It said 1 teaspoon on it. David filled the tiny spoon with the white baking powder and put it in the flour. He mixed the flour and baking powder together with a fork. He was learning that even small things, like 1 teaspoon of baking powder, were very important. The next step was about mixing the wet and dry things together. Step 7, add the flour mixture and 1 cup of milk to the sugar mixture. Add a little bit of flour, then a little bit of milk, then a little bit of flour, then a little bit of milk. This was new. David did not just dump everything in at once. He took a little bit of his flour mixture and put it in the big bowl. He mixed it in. Then he measured 1 cup of milk. He poured a little bit of the milk in. He mixed it again. He continued this back and forth, a little flour, a little milk, mixing after each one. He was patient. He did not rush. He was learning that the process, the way you do things, is very important. Finally, all the flour and all the milk were in the bowl. The cake batter was perfect. It was smooth. It was a beautiful creamy color. It had no lumps. It had no eggshells. It smelled good. The recipe had one last thing to add. Step 8, add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. His mom gave him the little bottle of vanilla and the teaspoon. He carefully poured the dark liquid into the spoon and added it to the batter. He mixed it one last time. The smell was wonderful. It smelled sweet and delicious. David felt so happy. This was a real cake batter. He had made it by following the instructions and by being careful. He had learned from his mistakes. Now it was time for the oven. This was the part where he made a very big mistake before. He looked at the recipe. It said preheat the oven to 180 degrees. David looked at the oven. He saw the numbers. With his mom's help, he found the number 180 and turned the knob exactly to that number. A light on the oven turned on. Now we wait for the oven to get warm, his mom said. They waited for a few minutes. David learned that you must warm up the oven first. You cannot just put the cake in a cold oven. While they waited, they prepared the cake pan. The recipe said, grease and flour the pan. David did not know what this meant. His mom showed him. She gave him a small piece of butter. David used his fingers to rub the butter all over the inside of the pan. He covered the bottom and the sides. Then he put a little bit of flour in the pan and shook it around until the inside of the pan was covered in a thin layer of flour. This, his mom explained, would stop the cake from sticking to the pan. This was another new thing he learned. He had not done this before. Soon, the light on the oven turned off. That meant the oven was hot enough. It was 180 degrees. Not too hot, not too cold, just the right temperature. David carefully poured the beautiful, smooth batter into the prepared cake pan. It filled the pan perfectly. There was no spilling. He used a spatula to get all of the batter out of the bowl. He did not want to waste any. He smoothed the top of the batter so it was flat. He looked at the recipe one more time. It said, bake for 30 minutes. David's mom showed him how to use the timer on the oven. He turned the knob to the number 30. Now, they did not have to guess. The timer would tell them when the cake was ready. David carefully opened the hot oven door. He put the cake pan in the middle of the oven. Then he closed the door gently. Now, all he had to do was wait. Waiting was hard. He wanted to see the cake. But his mom told him it was very important not to open the oven door while the cake is baking. Opening the door lets the hot air out and the cake might not rise properly. So David waited. He sat on a chair in the kitchen and watched the clock. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes passed. The kitchen started to fill with a wonderful smell. It was not a burning smell. It was a warm, sweet, happy smell. It smelled like a real birthday cake. David felt his stomach rumble. He was getting excited. 20 minutes passed. He looked through the small glass window on the oven door. He could see the cake. It was not flat anymore. It was getting bigger. It was rising. It was turning a beautiful golden brown color on top. It looked just like the picture in the recipe book. 25 minutes passed. The smell was even stronger now. It was the most delicious smell in the world. Finally, the timer made a loud ding sound. 30 minutes were over. "It's ready," David shouted happily. His mom came with an oven mitt, a special glove for hot things. She carefully opened the oven door and took out the cake. She put it on the counter. The cake was perfect. It was golden brown all over. It was tall and fluffy. It was not burnt. It was not a rock. It was a real, beautiful cake. David could not believe he had made it. His mom showed him one more trick. She took a toothpick, a small wooden stick, and pushed it into the center of the cake. When she pulled it out, it was clean. "That means it's cooked all the way through," she said. They let the cake cool for a little while. Then they carefully turned the pan upside down, and the cake slid out perfectly onto a plate. It did not stick at all because they had greased and floured the pan. David looked at his cake. He felt a huge sense of accomplishment. It was so different from his first try. His first try was a disaster, a mistake, but he did not give up. He learned. He learned that you need to follow instructions. He learned you need to be careful. He learned you need to be patient. He learned that making a mistake is not the end, it is a chance to learn how to do something better. When the cake was completely cool, his mom helped him make some frosting. They mixed powdered sugar and a little milk and vanilla together to make a sweet white topping. David used a knife to spread the frosting all over the top and sides of the cake. He put some colorful sprinkles on top. The cake was finished. It was a masterpiece. It was a birthday cake made with love and with lessons learned. When his dad came home, David showed him the cake. His dad was very impressed. Later that evening, they all sat at the table. They put candles on the cake and sang "Happy Birthday" to his mom. His mom had a huge, happy smile on her face. She looked at David and said, "This is the best birthday present ever, David." Not just because of the cake, but because you tried so hard and you learned something new. David cut the first slice of cake and gave it to his mom. Then he cut a piece for his dad and a piece for himself. He took a bite. It was delicious. It was soft and sweet and perfect. It was the best cake he had ever tasted. As he ate his piece of cake, he thought about his day. He thought about the first black, hard cake and the second golden, soft cake. They were so different, and the only thing that changed was him. He had changed from someone who guessed into someone who followed a plan. He understood that making mistakes was not a bad thing if you stopped, thought about why you made the mistake, and then tried again in a new way, a better way. David knew he would always remember this day. The day he learned that the best way to succeed is to learn from your mistakes.